Hi guys. A different type of subject today than you're used to, that I'm used to. Um, I was got to thinking, I live here with the natives, Native Americans, and constantly I'm reminded of how um, small I am as a white, and it doesn't drive me in a negative way. It's driving me to dig deeper to find out. More of the real story, what's really behind these emotions, these reactions that we get. um I remember in school them having us make little dioramas and things and teaching us about natives, but it didn't go very deep. We were children, so we grew up kind of respecting them and admiring them, and the only examples we had in real life were what was on TV. And a lot of people that claim to be a distant relation or generation of some kind of Indian princess or something. And that stems from people that have gone way beyond feeling the empathy and actually wanting to feel part of that. And I kind of feel that nostalgia as well, but I'm just handling it in a different way. This is the best way I could think of doing it, is just looking up random things that come to my head. One of the things that popped into my head was the Glacier Park. I heard rumors about that it was taken, the area was taken from the Blackfoot Indians or something. Anyway, I looked it up. It says the at the end of the Little Ice Age, around 1850, there were about 80 glaciers there, and that's where they got the name. Okay, and I said, "Who are the native people of Glacier Park?" So it's a park now, and it says the Blackfoot, Salish, Kootenai, and Penderel tribal members. Sorry if I really botched that last name. And I said, what happened to the Blackfoot Indians? And it says in 1888, um, they were left with no choices. These once proud people were forced to sign the so called, quote, Sweetgrass Hills Treaty, an agreement that gave the Blackfeet their present reservation plus lands in the eastern side of present day Glacier National Park. The region that became Glacier National Park was first inhabited by Native Americans. Upon the arrival of European explorers, it was dominated by the Blackfoot in the east and the Flathead in the western regions. Another thing I didn't know, the Glacier Park is also nicknamed the Crown of the Continent. So, this isn't advertising. I don't recommend anyone going to any reservation or gawking at natives. They are people, they are not attractions free to go stare at, okay? And um, I live very close to a reservation. Um, there's a Bureau of Indian Affairs officer that actually lived here, and I learned a lot from him. So, what I wanted to tell you was what the Bureau of Indian Affairs advises. As tribes of sovereign nations, tribal lands are not public land and are not open to the general public without contacting the tribe. Many reservations welcome visitors and have recreational, historical, and cultured sites and events to share with the public. Like I said, you don't know if they're one of those or not. So um, don't feel like you're going to go sightseeing like you would at a zoo and look at the different animals. Do not ever do that. If you think that, I don't like you. Um, Today, the 1.5 million acre Blackfoot Indian Reservation, which shares Glacier's eastern border, is home to about 8,600 members of the Blackfoot Nation, the largest tribe in Montana. And the rocks in Glacier Park are colored by the varying levels of iron and exposure to oxygen. Now, this gets into some sad stuff here, so if you're not in the mood, don't, but if you're the type of person that me that wants to hear the truth no matter how good, bad, and ugly, stick around. All right. This article was published October 14th of 2020. That's when it was originally published, and it was on the Wellian. Originally published on the Wellian magazine, October 4th, 14th, 2020. Dang, I still can't talk. Anyway, the article of this article, A Stolen History, Future Claims, the Blackfeet Nation and Glacier National Park. Can't talk. And this says, with special thanks to elders Ernie Heavy Runner and Daryl Norman, in memory of Daryl Norman. As with many writings on Native history, this article contains graphic accounts of genocide. So that's kind of what I was warning you about. Hold on, I gotta turn this light off. Lights off, that's better. So I wanted to show you this picture here. I don't know if it's gonna get big enough. I tried. Okay. And that picture, the caption underneath, a Blackfeet warrior at the backbone of the world, is the most sacred space for the Blackfeet who have lived here for 10,000 years. And the credit is Indian Arts and Crafts Board Digital Archives. Okay, back to the article. It says, with special thanks to elders Ernie Heavy Runner and Daryl Norman. Okay, it's getting closer. Are you ready for this? Or click off if you don't want to hear it. No one could tell a story like Ernie Heavy Runner. Although 1,000 miles separated our phone call, when Mr. Heavy Runner spoke, stories became living entities. Right in front of my eyes, horses leapt across open plains as daring warriors rode fast and powerfully. The forest churned with spiritual energy as Blackfeet youth trekked up Chief Mountain on their vision quest to adulthood. Mr. Heavy Runner's stories detailed unparalleled beauty, but also unimaginable heartbreak. I'm getting goosebumps while I'm reading this, so bear with me. Getting getting chills. It's wild. I often finished a conversation with Mr. Heavy Runner feeling the full weight of stories which detailed massacre, starvation, and discrimination. The level of detail that Mr. Heavy Runner could conjure was awe-inspiring. The United States made every effort to permanently silence Native American voices, but they were not successful. Mr. Heavy Runner exemplifies how Indigenous people were and still are resilient in the face of adversity. His stories are resilience in words. This man says, I leaned into the receiver, not wanting to miss a single syllable. I wouldn't either. So he continues listening, and Mr. Heavy Runner continues, I am a citizen of the Chickasaw people. Growing up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I was surrounded by Native American culture. However, it wasn't until much later in life that I discovered the heartbreaking situation of many indigenous communities. Most Americans don't know much about Native American issues because they're not taught about indigenous realities in school. That's why my life's goal is to bring Native American experiences to the forefront of public consciousness. I considered myself among the world's luckiest to be interviewing a storyteller as gifted as Mr. Heavy Runner. Ernie Heavy Runner was raised on the Blackfeet homelands in northwestern Montana by his grandmother, a medicine woman. He grew up riding horses bareback, his long hair flowing behind him as the wind rushed past his face. Sadly, this pastoral moment would not last. School forced Blackfeet children to cut their hair and to don Western attire. Luckily, Mr. Heavy Runner's grandmother kept his culture alive. She gave her grandson stories about the Buffalo Days. The Buffalo Days are in quotes. And that refers to the Buffalo Days refers to a time before the United States committed unfathomable atrocities against Native American tribes. There was a period before the Baker Massacre, an incident in which the U.S. purposely murdered a sleeping camp of peaceful Blackfeet. At least 177 were murdered in a single night, including 50 children. I'm getting them goosebumps again, guys, and the chills. Bear with me. Initially, a scout rushed to warn Colonel Baker that his army had chosen the wrong camp. Instead of retreating to commit a more reasonable genocide, he replied, "That makes no difference, one band or another of them. They are all Piegans, Blackfeet, and we will attack them." Baker promised to shoot the scout if he tried to rouse anyone. Heavy Runner, Mr. Ernie Heavy Runner's uncle, was killed that night. He was the leader of the peaceful camp. Take a moment and let that sink in. It already is. My eyes are tearing up so bad, you guys. When do you imagine American soldiers realized that murdering children was wrong? After killing one toddler, 2 children, 20, they killed 50. Then the army killed their grandmothers, grandfathers, mommies, and daddies until the ground ran red with the blood of the innocent. The United States government, your government, did this, yet there's a good chance that you've never heard about it. By contrast, do you know how many colonists died in the Boston Massacre? 5. And it sparked a revolution. The Buffalo Days derived their name from when buffalo roamed the North American plains. Abundant, the Blackfeet treated the buffalo as being superior to any human intelligence. The buffalo sustained the Blackfeet, and the tribe hunted them respectfully. It wasn't long before the United States realized that an easy way of removing the Indians would be to kill the buffalo. This idea is known today as the Buffalo War. Do you remember that figure from your childhood, Buffalo Bill? He's famous for describing exactly what the United States wanted to accomplish. Kill every buffalo you can, he said. Every buffalo dead is an Indian gone. The U.S. Army, along with hired huntsmen from around the world, eradicated over 40 million buffalo between 1830 and 1865. Sorry, I need a break. For the Blackfeet, starvation winters followed the eradication of the buffalo. The worst one, from 1883 to 1884, claimed the lives of 600 to 700 Blackfeet. The Blackfeet were becoming desperate to save their children. Finally, in 1895, the Blackfeet were forced to do something radical. They agreed to sell the lands, which now make up Glacier National Park, to the United States. Mr. Heavy Runner recalls the famous conservationist George B. Grinnell, as well as famous writer J.W. Schultz, played a key role in convincing the Blackfeet that selling their land was the only choice. Glacier National Park is the most spiritual place for the Blackfeet. They call it, quote, the backbone of the world, unquote, and have inhabited the region for 10,000 years. The tribe offered to sell their lands for $3 million. Predictably, the United States was unhappy with the price of saving people from starvation, so they bargained. They bargained the offer down from $3 million to $1.5 million. Money was not paid out in lump sum. Instead, the U.S. deemed the Blackfeet to be wards or children of the state. Funds were held in trust and paid out over many years, and this time, monies passed through the hands of corrupt bureaucrats and Indian agents who embezzled ungodly amounts. By 1913, because of a corrupt and racist system, the commissioner of the tribe declared the Blackfeet bankrupt. The sale of Glacier National Park included an agreement that Blackfeet could hunt, fish, gather, and carry out traditional practices on the land that they had sold. Subsistence rights did not last long before the United States decided to reinterpret their original land agreement with the Blackfeet. Conservation Society poignantly chronicles the court's decision in their article Blackfeet Belong to the Mountains, which reads, in 1932, a U.S. District Court decided that these reserved rights were extinguished upon designation of the national park. The court also claimed that the Blackfeet had failed to establish the extent to which they used the reserved privileges from 1895 to 1910 and had therefore forfeited their rights. Need another break? That's right. Our government blamed the Blackfeet for not asserting their own claims, while at the same time upholding a system that made any form of asserting claims impossible. After winning a court case in 1973, the Blackfeet finally were granted free admission to Glacier Park, but to this day, that's it. Moreover, subsistence was not, quote, a right, unquote, to the Blackfeet. European ideas of land ownership contrasted sharply with their culture, as Chief Crowfoot remarked, 1885. He said, we cannot sell the lives of men and animals, therefore we cannot sell this land. It was put here for us by the Great Spirit, and we cannot sell it because it does not belong to us. How true that is. And I've always found that intriguing as why to scramble and fence off these lands and pay for them over and over again when you can't take it with you when you go. What are you paying for? I don't know. So there's a picture here, but it's very blurry. I'm not even gonna, well, maybe I can try and show it to you, but it's just very blurry. And it's named Two Blackfeet Warriors and the Majestic Mountains of Glacier National Park in the background. The Blackfeet believe that no human should own this beautiful and sacred site. And the credit was Indian Arts and Crafts Board Digital Archives. Of course, the Blackfeet were eventually forced to sell their lands to save their starving children. But the idea of European land ownership was sacrilege. How could the United States bar Blackfeet from fishing, hunting, gathering, and conducting ceremony on lands that didn't even belong to the Blackfeet? After the establishment of Glacier National Park, economic opportunity flooded into the area, just not for the Blackfeet people. The Great Northern Railway, a titan of industry at the time, planned to construct a cross-continental tourist attraction featuring Glacier National Park as their showpiece. The railway erected lodges throughout Glacier Park and ran a rail line directly through the Blackfeet Reservation. It would have made sense to hire Blackfeet to construct the trespassing railroad, says Blackfeet elder and artist Darrell Norman, but the Great Northern Railway opted to hire immigrants from European countries instead. Inhabitants of the region for millennia, the Blackfeet received solely discriminatory opportunities from the Great Northern Railway. For menial wages, they hired Blackfeet to greet passengers, to set up a teepee camp outside park lodges, and to participate in an extensive advertisement campaign. Although each of these allowed for some maintaining of traditions, Darrell Norman recalls that it was in some ways very humiliating just to satisfy the curiosity of the traveler. The Great Northern Railway barred Indians from entering lodges unless it was for a publicity stunt. At the end of a hard day's work, white employees brought out kitchen scraps to the hungry performers. There's another picture that doesn't show very well, but I'll show you. It appears to be some natives sitting outside of a building. Well, it looks clearer in the camera than it sure does here. The heading or the description of the photo says one of the Great Northern Railway's famous travel lodges. The lodges heavily discriminated against, Blackfeet people, but they were one of the few economic opportunities in the area. And again, the credit is Indian Arts and Crafts Board Digital Archives. Enough sad history, though. Compartmentalization and willful ignorance come easy when discussing the past. Before you condemn such facts to yesterday, though, you should learn the contemporary situation of the Blackfeet people. It's not a whole lot different. The poverty rate on the Blackfeet Reservation is 39.5%, a figure which has undoubtedly increased since the coronavirus has ravaged Native American communities. For the rest of the United States, that number is 10.5%. The Blackfeet people need their subsistence rights back. I agree with that. Blackfeet Belong to the Mountains features interviews from Blackfeet. The most heart-wrenching story came from a man who had recently lost his job. To support his family without a salary, he decided to go out and hunt. After a whole week, the man didn't come across a single elk because they had all taken refuge in Glacier National Park. He was tempted to trespass onto parklands, but desired to be law-abiding. His family starved that week because of it. Hunting may sound like a gruesome concept to the urbanized. It did to me. One must keep in mind, though, that the average American kills far more animals in extremely more inhumane ways. Furthermore, hunting and fishing for the Blackfeet is for survival and not pleasure. Hunting is also a different cultural concept. As was true for the buffalo, the Blackfeet view animals as being superior to humans. After all, it's the humans who don't know how to survive in the wilderness. Reverence leads to sustainable practices, a testament to Blackfeet respect of the natural world. 55% of Montana's biodiversity lies within the Blackfeet Reservation. Unfortunately, this figure does not include many resources that the Blackfeet need for physical and spiritual sustenance. Glacier is the Blackfeet, remarked one elder. Spiritual sustenance is more vital today than ever before. The Blackfeet have faced tremendous cultural loss, and access to the land impacts how future generations will learn traditional knowledge. As one elder expressed in Blackfeet Belongs to the Mountains, there's something that's been lost. The kids here, they used to go through their vision quest, their transition to life, and the opportunity for going up into those mountains and doing that has been shut off. The opportunity for the spiritual foundation of our people has been thrown off. Mr. Heavy Runner believes it's an elder's job to instruct the Blackfeet youth. However, teaching traditional practices ranges from being difficult to downright impossible with the current restrictions. While it's true that some traditions are not explicitly barred from taking place at Glacier National Park, tribal members still report feeling spiritually excluded. They describe this exclusion as, quote, traumatizing, unquote, degrading, and alienating. So Glacier Park emphasizes many non-Indigenous activities, but the religious needs of the Blackfeet people are not priority. Collecting herbs is illegal at Glacier Park without a special permit. As a result, many Blackfeet must collect plants illegally from lands that are rightfully theirs. Here's another video, or photo rather. And it says Blackfeet people with sacred medicine bundle on the Two Medicine River. The Blackfeet need their spiritual subsistence rights to ensure religious practices can continue for the next generation. And that's another credit by the Indian Arts and Crafts Board Digital Archives. So that's what that was a picture of, was a native with a bundle. And here's the scientific community supports Blackfeet claims to Glacier National Park. The United States Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform